Hello, everyone, and welcome to Badger Talks. This particular talk will be about the benefits and opportunities of exercise for people living with dementia with a focus on caregivers. My name is Sue Wenker, and I'm the Associate Professor and also Director of the Physical Therapy Program within the Department of Family Medicine and Community Health. I'm going to start out today with a little story to orient you as to why I feel I enjoy this topic and how I got involved with it. So when I was little, probably in 5th and 6th grade, I was a child caring for my grandpa. Although we did not think of that at the time when I was that age. My grandpa had what I would say would be a diagnosis of vascular dementia. Back then, we called it hardening of the arteries. So grandpa fell and broke his ankle. He was living independently. However, he could not with a broken ankle. Therefore, while he was doing his rehab, he rotated living with his children in their homes and eventually landed in my family's home for the longest period of time. During these times when my grandpa was living with us, after school, I would care for him by assisting him with his self-cares, such as shaving, helping him transfer, helping him walk to a chair. And then I would also play the organ for him of music selections that he enjoyed. And lastly, we just hang out and watch TV. Of course, my parents were the true caregivers, shouldering the responsibilities that caregiving brings with it. However, I enjoyed taking care of and playing with my grandpa because that is how I saw it at the time. Fast forward a few years, and my interests now lie in developing interprofessional programs for health profession students, educating healthcare students on ways to work with caregivers when they are their patients themselves and when also the person living with dementia is their caregiver. So an overview for today, I just did the introduction, and then we're going to talk about benefits of exercise, safety considerations, and incorporating exercises into functional activities. So here are specific objectives. List the benefits of exercise and physical activity once we define it, identify and manage safety considerations around exercise, create a list of ways to integrate exercise into function, and then identify some potential exercises that may benefit the person living with dementia and you as a caregiver. But first, before we begin, let's talk about the difference between physical activity and exercise. Physical activity is the movement of skeletal muscles resulting in energy expenditure exceeding a resting state. This can include everyday activities like washing the car, carrying shopping bags, and vacuuming. However, exercise is a physical activity that is planned, structured, and repetitive. It's a subtype of physical activity. And from a physical therapist perspective, exercise is prescribed. Just as you receive a prescription for a medication from your pharmacist or a physician, you will receive a prescription for exercise, for example, from a physical therapist. So there are some differences, but we are going to talk today with using these terms interchangeably. And sometimes oftentimes physical activity can become exercise with a little creativity and thinking about how to dose that exercise. If we look at this particular slide here, these are guidelines from the World Health Organization. Note that if we look here, a person should be exercising between 150 minutes per week, which is about 30 minutes of moderate exercise 5 times per week. You may ask yourself, well, what is moderate exercise when I'm performing dancing as they show here, or hula hooping, or walking? Moderate exercise, if you're thinking about a talk test, can be described as an exercise where you can talk while walking, but you cannot sing while walking. So it's a little bit difficult while you're talking, but you are able to do that when performing moderate exercise. It also suggests here in the blue that on at least 2 days a week that you can perform multi-strengthening activities. For strengthening, exercises can be weight bearing, they can use body weight, they can use soup cans. A person can do it multiple ways of strengthening. And then last, you'll see that at least 3 days, a person should perform multi-component activities for balance and strength. And this is for people who are older. And this could be Tai Chi, this could be yoga, this can be a video on YouTube where you're integrating balance with strength with cardiovascular exercise. So there's many ways to incorporate these examples into your daily life. However, in either case, a person should remember that any type of activity is better than no activity. And so sometimes we get stuck on being very prescriptive to what a person needs. And yet what a person may need is to meet them where they're at and allow them to be as independent and functional as possible. This slide is also from the World Health Organization, and this talks about a summary of the guidelines relative to the quality of evidence and the strength of recommendations. So from the World Health Organization, you can see that physical activity should be recommended to adults with normal cognition to reduce the risk of cognitive decline. The quality of the evidence is moderate and the strength of the recommendation is strong. However, physical activity may be recommended to adults with mild cognitive impairment to reduce the risk of cognitive decline. The quality of evidence is low and the strength is conditional. I am not saying that exercise is unimportant. What I'm saying is that any kind of exercise is important. It's not going to reduce the risk if a person already has a diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment, but we'll talk about many benefits to exercise other than reducing the risk once they are diagnosed. And then bottom line here is what we don't know. What is the optimal dose? I'm going to talk about different ways to include activities that you do every day of your life. You can change different things about that, but there's no like one right best answer for any of them. We also don't know if exercise has different effects for men and women, and we don't also know if the subtype of dementia matters. So again, back to the previous slide, the idea is that you are moving and that you're not sitting still, nor is the person living with dementia. So what are the benefits of exercise for someone living with dementia? There's some direct benefits that include exercise can buffer the gradual loss of neurons and synapses associated with aging. So if we think about our brain and all the fire and the chemical reactions that go on to create interactions between neurons, this can buffer that loss of them. It can also strengthen compensatory mechanisms, such as increased growth of neurons. So not only the loss of them, but increase the growth of them, the types of neural connections, and the blood vessel growth that goes along with improved memory and learning. You will also see a decrease in hippocampus atrophy, and this may slow cognitive decline. So it can't reverse it, but it may slow it. Some indirect benefits to exercising include a decreased risk of diabetes. When you increase the blood flow, you increase the blood flow not only to your muscles, but also to your brain. When you have increased blood flow to the brain, this helps oxygenation of different parts of it. So that risk of diabetes and lowering it may also improve cognition. You can have managed decreased hypertension, decreased hypercholesterolemia, decreased risk and improved management of obesity. The decreased risk of depression just by doing exercise can improve a person's ability in terms of their social well-being, their psychosocial health, their ability to sleep. There's many indirect benefits to exercise. Decreased risk of depression may also be tied into the other one that's called decreased social isolation and risk associated with the social isolation. So again, an older adult can be alone. That doesn't mean that they are lonely. However, if they are lonely, engaging in exercise and also engaging in group activities can decrease and mitigate that. Exercise, of course, can decrease false risk and ability to participate in activities of daily living and instrumental activities of daily living. The how behind that is by increasing a person's strength, balance, and range of motion. And last, when you are having strengthening exercises twice a week and you have your muscles pulling on your bones, they increase the bone strength. And so it's also good to minimize risk of fractures to your bone. So why do people exercise? What is the motivator to exercising? So here is a list of intrapersonal motivators, meaning that they come from within the person. Increased independence, meaning that the person knows that if they exercise, that they're able to do more things by themselves for a longer period of time. Sometimes they feel that they can just perform the activity and knowing that they can do it and have that ability is a motivator. Another great reason is that the person just enjoys the activity itself. So if a person used to like gardening or swimming or walking, that might be something that they've always done and they find pleasure in it, so they want to do it. It could be part of their daily structure. Maybe they didn't like love exercise, but they knew it was beneficial for them. And that is something that they've been doing for a good portion of their life. And so it's something that is a routine for them and keeps them engaged. Another personal reason is that they're just willing to participate. They want to be around other people or they want to be around another person. It could be you as a caregiver, and they just want to engage with an activity. Another reason that people were interested in exercising was just the plain ability to get from point A to point B. They know that if they participate in exercise XYZ, that this is going to increase their ability to do so. A maintenance of prior activities was a reason for exercising, along with the diagnosis as a motivator in itself. So sometimes in this particular study indicated that if they had the diagnosis of having dementia, that in and of itself helped them want to exercise, knowing that they may slow the decline of the progression of the condition. We said before, a motivator was improved sleep and improved stress management. So that was also a motivator. And it also might be a part of their identity prior to the diagnosis in order to be fit and healthy, which kind of ties into what we earlier said earlier, about being part of their daily structure. Some external motivators include just the ability to enjoy the outdoors, bathing in nature, so to speak, being able to hear the birds, the animals, watching leaves fall from a tree, watching flowers sprout from the earth. All of those things contribute to bathing in nature. They preferred access to preferred modes of exercise. So they were able to get to a YMCA, a senior center, or some other type of group activity. And then also, as we mentioned earlier, an opportunity for social engagement for people living with dementia and their care partner. So people had an informal support group within the exercise abilities. There are also benefits of exercise to the caregiver. We're primarily focusing today on people who are living with dementia, but the ability to take care of yourself while taking care of the person living with dementia is important and is a benefit to you. The person living with dementia is not going to be as successful unless you are also able to decrease your stress, feel increased social engagement with them and others. And additionally, you get to engage in the exercise with the person living with dementia while they are in a group session. And this could be with them. This could be while they are in an exercise, you exercise someplace else. But it gives you the ability as a caregiver, a moment of that day to take care of yourself also. There are some challenges to performing exercises with a person living with dementia. So let's talk about these a little bit. I highlighted the two because according to the research, there's two main categories: physical changes, which can be the decreased ability of the person to move as they had in the past. The person may be experiencing pain or other unpleasant sensations. For example, maybe some numbness or tingling because a nerve may be pinched. They may be experiencing some muscle soreness if they're stiff and they're achy from other conditions. The person may also have a decreased positive self-perception of exercising, meaning that their perception of how they view themselves is negative and feel that they should not be exercising because they're foolish or they can't do it like they used to, or that they're an embarrassment. And those physical changes, again, should not stand in the way of someone exercising either with a video, with a caregiver that they trust, or once they get to meet other people in an environment that supports them. There's also psychological concerns when exercising, which be a fear of injury. If they are doing so good, they just don't want to do anything else because they might get injured. So again, thinking about what makes the person living with dementia feel safe and how they can navigate the area and access the area in which they're going to be exercising in. As I mentioned, cognitive changes are important also to consider because the person has decreased memory and daily fluctuations. Truly, every day is a new day in which a person is going to experience the world around them. As a caregiver, you've probably already found that the day will be paced potentially and how the person living with dementia is showing up for that day. If they slept well, if they did not sleep well, if their pain is managed, if the pain is not managed, if they're just confused because of their cognitive fluctuations. As a caregiver, your ability to change and shift daily is also part of exercise. And the last part there, for reasons that were given that people didn't exercise, was because of negative judgments about exercise itself with age. Hopefully, as we all are getting older, ageist attitudes are changing. However, all of us should be considering how we're going to exercise and take care of our bodies as we age within those spaces that we want to improve. It's our bodies in terms of what works best for us, what is moderate for us, what type of exercise we like, etc. So I was talking about some of these things. I kind of alluded to safety considerations, but let's explore them a little bit more. When thinking about the environment, think about the lighting. Brightly lit rooms can increase alertness, but can also increase glare. Work to find moderate or soft light. If using equipment, make sure it is in good repair and safe to use. This may vary from elastic bands to a mat to kitchen utensils if the person is preparing meals and you're integrating exercise into their daily activities. Also, have the equipment in the space the person is going to be using it. Don't leave the person unattended while exercising, as they may become easily confused as to the task that they were doing. Also consider temperature of the space that the person is using. If it's too hot or too cold, it may be very difficult for the person to focus as they may become uncomfortable. However, if the temperature is moderate, as they start exercising, they will warm up. If the person cannot regulate their body temperature, then a cool environment may be a little bit better if they're exercising at a moderate level. When thinking about attire, the person should wear clothes, and as the caregiver should, that are breathable, easy to don and doff, and that don't restrict the person's movement or makes them feel like they're too tight. The clothes should move freely and can be as easy as a pair of pull-on sweatpants or shorts, or even leggings or loose jeans. Maybe the person has never worn sweatpants a day in their life. Well, then don't put them in sweatpants. Find blue jeans or some other kind of khaki or cotton material that is more comfortable for them. Wear clothes that work for the person. Depending on the activity, they may not have to be in something special per se. However, footwear is important. Gain an understanding of what shoe type may work best for the person. For example, we have Velcro shoes and lace-up shoes and slide shoes. There's shoes that have sticky bottoms, and we have shoes that kind of slide along the way. So when I'm thinking about that, a loose, open, slide-on shoe is not best for exercise. That includes slippers that are slide-on. You want a shoe that has a supportive heel, a wide enough toe box so it doesn't pinch their feet, and then either if it's Velcroed or lace up, that that tightening can be secured, that the closure can be secured before they exercise. And the last piece there is cognition. As I said earlier, each day is a different day. Set expectations accordingly, give yourself some slack, give the person some slack, and meet them where they are at that day. If you choose to push an agenda, as you probably already know, onto a person living with dementia, you probably will not get as far as if you're able to go with the ebb and flow of how they are doing that day. And then last, we're going to talk about this more, is to integrate your exercise into daily activities to try to incorporate things that don't create extra time for you to have to complete something outside of an already busy day. So here are some just general considerations for caregivers. As I said before, join in. Nothing wrong with you also enjoying the cognitive brain health or the physical exercise. Be realistic, as I just touched on again. Work with the ebb and flow of the person, trying to figure out how you can modify your loosely structured activity for that person. Play music if it's appropriate. Sometimes this can increase a person's engagement in exercise and facilitate even dancing and bring back old memories. Other times, it may be a distraction and the person cannot stay on task as well. And last, stay comfortable. Stay comfortable with the skills and the effort you can provide that day. Stay comfortable with the person and what they're experiencing that day. So how do we incorporate exercise into function? I have discussed the difference between physical activity and exercise. We've talked about the benefits with exercise along with some of the challenges and safety consideration. But now it's time to think about and give ideas how to incorporate exercise into function. So here are some examples, and I do want to share that I'm going to give you several examples of ways to work daily chores and activities into your life and to make them easier or more difficult. However, if you are starting an exercise or the person is returning to a prior program that has not been completed, you should seek advice of a physical therapist or your physician prior to starting that exercise. And again, these are examples. I am not going to suggest that they are exhaustive in nature, but hopefully more intended to give you some thoughts to move forward with your own types of activities that you're able to do with the person living with dementia. So in this first example, I'm walking to the mailbox. The person living with dementia may want to increase their cardiovascular fitness. Instead of saying, let's go for a walk, what you could do is say, let's go to a walk to get the mail, depending on where your mailbox is. When I think of getting the mail, my mailbox is down a long driveway. So that would be quite the functional distance for a person. During that time, I could think about how many times we do it, how fast we do it. Can the person carry the mail? Can the person unlock the mailbox with some assistance? So all of these things I could be modifying if I wanted them to walk, faster, longer, if I want them to think about how to take the key and put it in the mailbox, what to do with the mail, etc. A second example I have here is that of doing laundry. Instead of just doing the laundry for a person, ask them to complete the task itself. Now, I am not suggesting that the person carry loads up and down steps, but you could do strength training for the brain where you give the person a basket of laundry and they have to sort the laundry for several different reasons. One reason may be to sort it per person in the household. Another reason may be to sort it by size. Another reason may be to sort it by color. And the list, again, is endless. Those are just a couple of examples of how you can strength training for the brain, thinking about how to organize the laundry. Another example is to carry the weight of the load. So carrying a laundry basket is called a dual task, and dual tasks are more difficult than doing one thing at a time, which seems to make sense, correct? So you could give the person laundry that isn't overly burdensome. Again, it has to be moderate and meet them where they're at, and ask them to carry this from your laundry room to a different room. It could be a bedroom, so they have to think about which room they're going to. It could be a living room. It could be the kitchen table. You could load the laundry up and make it a little bit heavier. You could take some laundry out and make it a little bit lighter. So there's many different ways that you can use laundry as a potential way to improve a person's cognition, or excuse me, I should say exercise their cognitive abilities and also their physical abilities. Another example is washing and drying dishes. So instead of having the person sit and wait while you may be doing dishes or unloading the dishwasher, this is something they could do. And again, it's a multitasking type of thing. So while you're having them wash them, they could be conversing with you. So, can they do those two things at once? They may or may not be able to. It's not a test, it's an activity. While they're standing, their brain is working on cleaning and talking and standing. So you have strength and you have balance. You could focus on balance by having the person stand and put things into drawers or cupboards. So you could work on standing balance by lifting up. You could work on bending over with balance by putting things down. And then between that, like I said, it could also be social interaction, just having a conversation with the person with dementia while you're doing this. Another example is that of meal preparation. So you can incorporate, again, mind health, brain health, in addition to physical activity. Washing vegetables. Are you washing vegetables at the sink? Thinking about turning on the water, thinking about scrubbing the vegetables or putting them under the water themselves, putting them in a pile where they may have some assistance as to where you want them. A person can set the table. Do you have all plates? Do you want paper plates? What kind of silverware do you want? It can go to buttering buns. I was thinking of the holidays, if you have buns oftentimes at your meal. Again, ask them to cut the bread or if it's not safe with a knife, then you could cut the bread. And then you could also ask them to butter it with a butter knife. Watering houseplants. Think of all the steps that go into watering houseplants, and you can ask the person to become engaged again with this routine activity of life in different ways. It could be as complex as locating the I can't think of the name now. The thing that you water the plants with. It could be as challenging as that, to you showing them where the watering can is. There we go. I found the word. To showing them where the watering can is. You could ask them to fill it with water, carry it. That's balance, that's steadiness. You could ask them to locate the specific plants. You could, show them, and again, that strength with the arms, strength with the hands. Depending on how many plants you have, that might be more endurance, because they'll have to walk to different plants, potentially in different places. But those are all ways you can expand on the challenges of watering houseplants. Making the bed is another great example. Can they, to what degree do you want to challenge them, and for how long? Do you want to work on standing balance, where are they going to help you on one side of the bed while you make the other? Is it working on brain health, where they come up with the different layers of the bed, from the fitted sheet to the blanket to the cover? Again, those are all more complex activities that we don't necessarily think about because we do them often. But for the person living with dementia, if you think about that, it's multiple components. It's standing, it's bending. We all struggle with figuring out which side of the fitted sheet goes on. So that's something that they can continue to work on. But making the bed, again, can serve several purposes that fit within the World Health Organization guidelines. And the last one I hear of is putting away groceries. So where do the groceries go? Having the person carry a bag that they're capable of carrying. That may challenge them a little bit, but they can still do it. Or maybe you'll have to carry the groceries in, but then ask them to put them in different places or set them on the counter or organize them. Again, that standing balance, that could be strengthening for both the arms and the legs. And again, all of these will vary from day to day. How much you'll ask the person to do, you're probably the best person to know that, in which way to challenge them safely without increasing frustration for both of you, but engaging them in ways that you don't have to necessarily complete a whole new program. So then we also have ways that you want to modify and exercise it. So I talked a little bit just now about adaptability, but now we're going to talk about truly modifying a position or the way an exercise is done itself. So you might want to modify an exercise if the person wakes up when they're just really tired, they haven't slept well. If you start to see a change in their balance or a change in the balance that day, and you're like, oh, today's just not a good day for the balance. I'm not going to have them do this today. We're going to do this in a different position. Or maybe the person's resistant to participate. For some reason, they don't want to engage in setting the table or having food prep. Who knows, right? Or it can be a progression of the condition itself. So some ways to modify an exercise are listed here. For example, if you are having a person perform an exercise in standing, they could do that in a seated position. For example, we talked about the many different ways to manage laundry. If they're no longer able to carry laundry or walk that distance, you could have them sit down and fold the laundry and still sort the laundry while you're talking with them. Could have them sit and sort silverware. again, think of the fine motor control that is used to pick up forks and spoons and knives and soup spoons and salad forks and sort those into different piles as needed. You can work on bringing the task closer to the person. If they're no longer able to bend down in the garden, or they're no longer able to kneel on one knee and get back up, you can raise the flower bed or the gardening bed with vegetables. You can also use benches, and there's a wide variety of portable benches that could be usable in specific environments. Again, you have to think of safety. So there's not a cure-all, one-all answer, but these are options to consider when you're thinking about caring for the person living with dementia. And here's just an example at the end. We talked about food preparation. So you could do food preparation in standing, preparing the food then in sitting instead of standing. Maybe you put food in a bowl or on a plate and then ask them about the different types of food. So as the condition progresses, you not only modify maybe the position that you're doing, but in the ways that you offer the intervention. So here I just wanted to share with you whoops, excuse me. Whoops. I hit the wrong button. I just wanted to share with you some other things to consider when looking at a person living with dementia. So again, current cognitive abilities, we have talked about to what degree is the person able to follow during that day? What are they able to recall that day in terms of their activities? Thinking about prescribed exercises in terms of what can they perform with cues, indoor demonstrate. You might go to a physical therapist and they might say, we're going to give you 3 sets of 10 repetitions. And you're sitting there thinking, yeah, that is not going to happen for several reasons. It is in your best interest to say that, to say, my day is very structured. I have these activities I need to get done, not only for myself, but for the person living with dementia. How can I incorporate this into exercise? And hopefully you'll have some ideas to bounce off the physical therapist at this time. Consider what equipment may you need for prescribed exercises. Maybe you don't own a 10-pound weight or a 2-pound weight. How else can you modify that? You might be able to use soup cans, gallons of empty milk cartons with handles that you can fill with water. You can use a lot of things at home that are functional and don't cost anything. However, you may have a space in which you can access, such as the YMCA or a local senior center. And then you may also want to seek out group exercises that could be available in your community. Again, I said senior centers, but also I want to shout out to the Aging and Disability Resource Center in your county. I know this is through La Crosse County, so it's something that you need to navigate and visit and ask for help, because the ADRC is a wealth of information. And then also we've talked about adapting exercises. We talked about being flexible on what position we modify exercises. And then just in general, thinking about exercises relative to the stage of the condition a person may be experiencing. So if they have Alzheimer's disease, they may have mild cognitive impairment. Here you probably need to give the person few cues. They're fairly self-guided. They're doing what they enjoy. They're stable to function at a very high level. A person who is managing moderate dementia is going to need more assistance. They might be inconsistent across all aspects of an exercise, but they're still able to perform it with guidance. They may get stuck because they may forget exactly what they're doing, but they can initiate the exercise. And then lastly, advanced dementia. This may be a totally different type of exercise. You may be performing range of motion on a person's joints to keep them lubricated and moving, to facilitate with bed mobility, transfers, to prevent their joints getting stuck in one position. And then continue to think about the benefits and modify as needed in this progression. So having someone touch you, talk with you, are all positive aspects of exercise, even though it may not be the same exercise that they were once doing. And last, talking about prescribed exercise one more time. Again, incorporate music if appropriate. Incorporate arts of whatever kind, drawing, crafting, painting, playing a musical instrument, gardening, really the creativity is what's going to make a person engaged that's meaningful to them. If you can understand what they used to like to do, if they have different interests now, those are the things that they're probably going to enjoy doing to some degree. And if not, play with something else. There's plenty of options out there that you now have options to think about dosing it to make it more difficult. For an example, I saw somebody who was working on balance, and the person had been a housekeeper, and they gave the person a rag to dust, and the person ended up dusting the adult day center that was for people living with dementia. And that worked on their balance. They were engaged, they were less stressed, they had a meaningful activity to them, to where they were at in their life. They talked about music, a little bit about dance. So standing to dance, or you can also dance from a chair, right? If a person enjoys music and likes that rhythm, have them participate where they can. And different types of exercise, again, thinking about cardiovascular strength, balance, flexibility. These were all the things that we talked about earlier with the World Health Organization. And we also provided some examples of how to manage that. And last, so we talked about this already, is think about who the person was and how they show up today. What connections can you make to incorporate exercise into physical activity, which means into your day? So in summary, exercise to tolerance and be safe. If the activity is new, consult your physician or physical therapist first. Once you have an exercise program that works, know that you're going to have to modify it as the disease progresses and every day is a new day. There are many ways to increase a physical activity. Creativity is key, and hopefully today's presentation gave you a few examples. Like I said, every day is a new day. So to be kind to yourself, remember that your person living with dementia needs you, and you need to take care of yourself also and give yourself grace. Try to make exercise and physical activity fun. Don't let it become a chore or something that creates angst and stress. Remember to assure safety for you and the person exercising. And last, the brain is a muscle. Work to incorporate it into activities and challenge the person as well as yourself. Here are a few resources that you might want to try checking out. Joyage is a mission-driven service dedicated to helping people improve health functionality and preventing cognitive decline for older adults. I included the Alzheimer's organization. This link here is seated exercises for people with dementia, dementia-friendly activities to do at home with your loved one, and then exercise for dementia with recreation therapist. I would encourage you to be mindful of videos that you come along online. Not every video is equally good to the next one. So consider those safety considerations, the person and yourself and your environment, because you want to assure safety and not have anyone injured or discouraged and then choose not to exercise. So last, I know I'm not going to be with you in person, but again, my name was Sue Wenker. I have my email listed there, and I am happy to have you reach out to me with any questions you may have. If I don't know the answer, I will try to find somebody that does. Thank you for your time.